with the red dots.
Can you turn and see if you got one?
You need it, what it,
Hmm.
you need it, what it opens.
Visuals and open session.
It's recording.
Yep, we resume normal session.
That's the wrong one. I got the report.
All right, good morning, everyone. We'll call to order the Madison County Park District meeting. Everyone should have received a copy of the minutes from last month's meeting and also the financial report.
Move to approve the minutes and the financial report.
Second.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea,
Yes.
Dr. Zanikis.
Yes.
Mr. Wallace.
Yes. We'll move forward with partnership reports. Engineer's office want to kick us off?
So we're mowing, as normal right now. We've got some dead trees that we're working on getting some.
I think those are finished.
You're finished? Okay. Got some dead trees that were taken down. And then we submitted a grant application, was that Udo?
Yeah.
To, replace the structure on the trail, just to the west of the Wilson Road trailhead. That would provide materials, for the project and for our crews, replacing by Fortune County. So what do we think when we're back on
It'll
that?
be about 2 months until we hear about that. Thanks for getting that tree down over the road. I think we got that. Let's say we're in operation now. Good.
That's updated already.
Very good, thank you. Friends, Jeff, give your update.
Just to kick off a little bit about well, first of all, we've got 51 campers so far that have stayed there. So this is our third highest year as far as the status from all the different years since 2016. Currently, we've had Warrior Expedition veterans coming through. There was a total of 7 going across the country that started out. One was injured up in Orville area, and it is going to be delayed a couple of months. But we had 5 of them last night that were at the London Guest House, and we met them over there to take them out to dinner and so on and so forth. And I'm extremely pleased with London. let's put it that way. They've been riding so far from Washington DC, and they're here in London, and then they're continuing on to the state of Washington, is what that ride is all about. So we have, one more rider coming tonight, and we'll do the same for him, we're staying at the London Guest House. So that's, working out really well for them, they're very pleased.
Very good.
Greg, do you have anything to add about the gap or anything?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we've been meeting very regularly with Norfolk Southern and with the consultant that actually they're paying for, but from the Open Space Institute of New York State, in helping our process. Both the consultant and Norfolk Southern are, be honest with you, seem to be thrilled with the progress that we're making, that we're moving very quickly compared to many similar projects. We are to the point now where Norfolk Southern finished their appraisal and have given us a preliminary number. It is not the final number because they're going to deduct from that number the value to Norfolk Southern for being able to eliminate the maintenance of the 5 railroad crossings related to that spur. So the number that they came in with initially is $856,000 for the acquisition of the property. That's actually a fair amount better than we were kind of hoping. And again, if they come in lower, I'm hoping that maybe we're going to come in the 700 range. So we're getting to the point where, and just in case everybody isn't aware, the rail can't go to the abandonment process at the federal level until Norfolk Southern has a contract signed with a potential buyer, which would be, us. Once that's signed, it doesn't mean we're paying for it then or anything. It just means that we are showing the intent that we're going to purchase this property and the abandonment process can proceed. My understanding, I wasn't around in the past, but but my understanding is that previously for other parts of the trail that the county owns now, what happened was the county put up the money initially for the purchase, and then the money was reimbursed to the county through grant processes, et cetera, that we pursued. We have started looking into the grants. We can't really do anything yet until we're a little bit further down the road, but we feel very confident because of the value of this project to the Great American Rail Trail, to the Ohio to Erie Trail, to US Bike 50. I mean, there's so many other entities, MORPSI, that are very interested in us getting this completed. That we feel very confident we'll be able to raise the funds both through grants and through individual donations. We've already had some conversations as far as private donations. So not that you have to make any decision just yet, but I wanted to get this in front of the commissioners so that you guys can kind of start thinking about that, because we're getting to the point where we are going to have to start having that conversation. But things are going very well. We're very positively inclined that we're going to be able to go to the abandonment process sometime within the next few months or so.
Very good. Greg, do you anticipate that you'll be able to get enough grant dollars and private donations to cover the entire cost? Is that the goal?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is, we've seen such positive inclination on this across the board. I feel very confident that we're going to be able to do everything that we want to do.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Greg? All right, moving along. Soil and water. Thank you.
I invited Ron just to kind of give an update about the Little Darby Preserve. It's one of the parks that the Park District operates, and just a quick reporting on.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. We just recently had some volunteers from Tolls Tech out, along with ODNR staff, and some help with the Friends group. And we've been removing invasive honeysuckle. We started back along some of the tributaries that go into the Darby, and we're pushing our way up there. And we're really seeing some progress. We're seeing some native plants come back in those riparian areas, and it seems like the students really enjoy their time. We had a few people that have volunteers with us who are interested in our internship. So I think we're really making some good connections in that front. We've also been working with the Friends on the trail to remove, some honeysuckle as well as autumn olive, some other, more aggressive woodies that are in our prairie areas. And has been coming along very well, also, so. I thank their help and it's good to see the progress.
Thank you. Appreciate that update. Any other update from soil and water? No, very good. If there's no old business, so we'll move on to new business. We've already kind of discussed, close the gap. On the last item of business is the Madison multi-use trail framework plan presentation. Anybody wanted to speak to that?
I have a little presentation lined up. And I don't know if you got the physical copy of the trail plan, but I did print extra copies for those who are paper people. Otherwise, you can follow along in the trail plan. Does anyone want a hard copy?
Take one, Jim.
So basically, what kind of got this started is when I was looking at the comp plan, which is being updated, they had this trail map that was a little bit confusing and, I wanted to see what this plan was about. And as I dug into the plan, it was done in 2020. I can't believe it's been 5 years since it was created. And I found it to be actually a very informative document. Now, there may be some trails in there that no longer apply, or maybe there's still good trails that we should keep in the plan. And it's an opportunity to kind of, I like to take this 5-year opportunity as a chance to kind of work with our communities to kind of share with them the information that's in this plan and learn from those communities what their trail plans are. And it's an opportunity to collaborate, maybe get some assistance for some of the projects that we do have on the books. So that being said, I'm just gonna go through it because I feel like if everybody's on the same page with it, then it's an opportunity to figure out how we can actually implement some of the things that's in this plan. When it's not moving forward. Yeah, so your plan has an overview, existing conditions, and then that map that talks about the different trails that we could do and strategies to support our trail system. So again, the purpose of this plan is to consolidate the prior trail plans to create one vision for multi-use trails in Madison County. So I do think this is genius. I mean, there's like 6 or 8 different plans out there. This consultant took the time to look at all the plans and put them in one location. And so how we're supposed to use this plan is to identify and protect opportunities, enable collaboration and partnerships, and to support economic development. Because as we know, a good trail system will help improve property values. And then our objectives for the plan is to create a trail network vision. So I think it just means being aware of what's happening in Madison County and the different communities and how we can connect, because connectivity is very important. Leveraging our natural unique assets, which for me, of course, I'm in love with the big and little Darby Creeks and the fact that it's a state and national scenic river. Again, connecting our communities and helping our economics. So again, there's lots of plans out there. Because they're Hyde Erie Trail, we're definitely on a lot of different regions' radar, as well as our own local friends in Madison County Parks and Trails, making a really custom vision for Madison County. And, regionally speaking, we're in between 2 major metropolitan areas. So again, we have Dayton to our west with all those trails, Columbus to our east, and we have a major trail that goes through Madison County, and also one that comes from Columbus to Plain City. So, they did analysis of our communities, they talk about Madison County, London, Plain City, West Jefferson, Mount Sterling. I personally would like to see South Solon added. I think it's great to show these communities because it makes everyone feel a part of this plan. So I like this page a lot. And then our natural free features, I think, Madison County only has 8% trees and it's located mostly on water rivers. So I think the idea of protecting or repairing corridors and using trails as a way of doing that is a great win-win situation. And again, the big and dirty creeks are important because of their state and national scenic river status. Deer Creek has several communities, Madison Lake, a golf course, Lake Choctaw. So definitely Deer Creek has a lot of uses and then that little thing by Stokes, it's the headwaters, the Paint Creek, we think all our creeks are special, so definitely whatever we can do to protect our creeks. Existing trails, so no doubt Ohio to Erie Trail is the big priority for this county. It brings in lots of people, a lot of people use that. You can see Darby Creek Metro Parks, again, that's obviously another major recreational area. Metro Parks manages those parks, but we still benefit from those parks. And then the Heritage Trail, again, that's managed by Columbus Metro Parks. And currently it stops at the quarry. So I do know that one of the wish lists is to figure out how to get that trail all the way into Plain City. Similar to our gap in London, Plain City also has their own gap that we would like to complete. So what I thought was very interesting is that they got data from this tool called Strava, which actually tracks personal exercise. So they actually can find real data of how people are using our trails and roads. So they have a map of just walking. So you can see this bright blue around London, and people are using that bike trail in London. That's definitely the most local usage you can get. We have walkers and take like Choctaw, we have walkers in our metro parks and then up there in Plain City. So you can see and down in Mount Sterling too. I'm sure there's a park down there that people use for exercise. I thought that was great to have actual data. And then for biking alone, this was a surprise to me to see how much bicyclists are using our rural roads. I had no idea, so I don't do that. But it clearly shows that if we were to talk about where do we need to improve our roads for bicyclists, there's data that can show you where you should direct those kinds of efforts. And of course, you can see the Ohio to Erie Trail is also very popular. So they did a combination map for us, so you can see, where the people are actually using these features. And the Ohio to Erie Trail is the most used route. So that's definitely where we should prioritize and need efforts. And our rural routes, they say it's the second thing. We have a lot of usage on the scenic routes there. People are recording usage in London, Plain City, and Choctaw Lake. Prairie Oaks, of course, we know that's being well used. So definitely we can show that there is activity. So then the consultant talked about opportunities. So I do love that they place as #1, Big and Little Darby Creek. It is a sensitive resource. We have lots of partners who are building up green land along those creeks. I would highly encourage the county to also do their part, or if they see an opportunity to protect land along the Darby. And you have playing a role in that with our Little Darby Preserve. So you're already a part of it, and I'd like to encourage more investment in that asset. Now, the second one's a little bit less known to me, which is the idea of a natural trail at the Glen. It's not that I don't think this is a fabulous plan. I'd just be curious to know if Ohio State, how they feel about this plan 5 years later. They have a farm science review. I know they have lots of walkers at the Glen Conservation Area. So it's just one of those things where that's an interesting idea. I just don't know its relevance right now. And then option number 3 is the corridor. We know from the Friends reports that lots of people are using the national road going from coast to coast. This case, they're suggesting an off-road trail. It's an idea that was being proposed for a certain reason that maybe doesn't exist anymore. So this is the map that, I looked at and said, what does this map mean? So this is their high-level document, guide trail development. So this is a visionary map. Again, it's a compilation of lots of different plans. And I know I've heard from the friends that some of these trails, they don't know, they had a wish list. But then they, don't know how realistic some of these trails are. So I think this is a good opportunity to say, do we want all these trails here? Maybe it's time to make some modifications. So I think I'm going to briefly highlight the topologies. I do think it's very good information to know. When you see that trail map, they're not saying that every trail is going to look like this. These are the greenway and regional trails. It's for very high traffic areas. It's off the road. They're very wide trails. They're expensive trails. Roadside trails, those are also off the road, but they're in the road right away. And it's for areas that you think is, be dangerous to have bicyclists share the road. But it's a different kind of road. And then scenic on the road routes, that's where if we had rural roads that we could just help widen it and put down those warning symbols to make people aware that bicyclists do use this road. That could be something that we can look at. And when a road gets upgraded, maintained or repaired, say, hey, is this where we need to make those changes? Then finally, our agrarian naturalized trails, those are, as it sounds, they're not paved, they're much more narrow, and those would be more appropriate in riparian areas that are maybe flooded and things like that, that isn't appropriate to put a bike trail. So what they did in this plan is they identified 10 corridors. We all know about the Higher to Erie Trail. The Heritage Trail up in Plain City, they are looking to make that connection all the way to Plain City. And those are those major greenway trails. And then the National Road Trail and Post Road Trail, those are the roads that are trails that be built in the road right away. And so for me, when I look at the National Road Trail, I guess, I would like to have a conversation. Is it really going to be off the road, or should the National Road Trail be just incorporated as part of the road? I don't know enough about that, but it's just in our plan, and who would do that? Would that just be something every time ODOT's doing something to 40, we would be there to say, hey, we have this preference on 40 to do something. This is a communication tool. I don't know anything about Old Coast Road Trail. I'd have to talk to Plain City. I don't know anything about that trail. London Loop, that's another one that sounds great on paper. I don't know much about it. So I'd be curious what London thinks of this loop, or friends think of this loop. Big Darby Greenway. Now this trail is mainly shown in Franklin County. That there is a little bit in Darby Township and Canaan Township. And I would say this one has the potential to be a little bit controversial because of the scenic river. I do know that the scenic river manager doesn't want to see paved trail within 1,000 feet. So this one would be something that the question is this really the best trail? And is there an alternative route? And I invited Jimmy to sit in on the audience because I know he has some ideas about what he thinks might work better. Little Darby Greenway. To me, this is more important as a green jewel than a bike trail. I think it'd be very expensive to build a bike trail along that course, but that's another trail that's been identified. Deer Creek, that's Choctaw Lake. And the Molly Karen Ag Loop. And then Southern County, the rural route. And again, I really appreciate them showing a connection to that part of the community, so we're not neglecting the southern end of our county. We've identified a trail that, could be beneficial to them. And then we've kind of talked a little bit already about the strategy and strategies here. Adopting an open space policy, trying developers to construct trails and promoting trail use was 3 that we've identified as being something that's doable now in the next 5 years. And there's some other ideas there that is on the table, or certainly good good strategies for adopting this plan. So it leads me to the last page, that wonderful trail map, that was the overall vision. So, I would like to see us, going to each town, whether that's a council member or a staff member of the park district, to ask for their input into this plan, especially trails that affect their communities. And if they have a trail plan, can we get a copy and put it on to the back of this document? Because I do like the idea of one document having all the trail plans. Editing this trail map and possibly adding new trails. And I'd love to see this plan into an ArcGIS layer, because from a planning perspective, if we can actually see it on top of parcels, when that parcel goes to develop, then we can more easily identify that opportunity to say, hey, you've been identified as an area that we would like to put in a multi-use trail, and that we can start that conversation. And then, this is just personal, I would like to, not personal, I just think it's a good idea. I would love to have an online survey, asking the public opinion about either this plan or parks and trails in general. I think is a 5-year opportunity, we can kind of get public feedback. And then ultimately share these updates with Morpsey. They do take these trail plans from their communities and they use it for their own long-term strategy. So it'd be good to make sure that they have the correct information from us. So that's a long presentation. And I guess I would like to hear questions, comments from the board.
But this is from 2020 originally. What I have didn't have some of the updated.
Yeah, I shortened out some of the pages just so, to make our car.
Yeah, no, that's okay. But has it been updated since 2020 at all? Or is it this is just a shorter version? Okay. And so some of the action items you're talking about, like getting a champion for the local communities, this would be in order to solicit feedback on this document and figure out if the priorities make sense, figure out which ones we might want to tackle. I mean, is that what your vision is?
Yeah.
Have any of these been, are all of these clearly visionary at this time? I mean, other than highlighting some of like they'll have it to Erie, are all of the rest kind of visionary?
Right, there's 2 existing and then, for sure. And I don't know about the status of the Old Post Road Trail. That one is very mysterious to me, because I'm not even sure, I think a lot of it's in Union County, so maybe they're working on it, but I don't know. But otherwise, no, these are the only trails that we're working on still have the Erie Trail, and closing that gap. The friends are very clear that that's their focus right now.
Some of those were not necessarily bike trails, but for walking here and course. So I'm not sure if the Old Post, if you go back, there's certain, you can see them categorized, whether it be primarily a picture, you can see, so there's a bike. So like, there's go to the next page, which was one that we were talking about along the border of, wasn't that Big Garden Greenway? Okay, so yeah, and then so the Deer Creek, yeah, okay, so yeah, these are more, I think, visionary than actually established at this point. So, yeah.
So we hired MKSK 2019, 2020
Yes.
to develop this plan. With a specific goal in mind.
Yeah.
Just bring connectivity to all the different trails and what that would look like. There was no dollars budget necessarily to do that. It was more like a vision document, and if that's something like in the future we wanted to pursue. Development trails and connectivity. Perspective.
Right, and so what I like about when I dug deeper into this, at first when I saw the trail map without really understanding it, I thought they wanted a paved trail from West Jefferson up to Little Darby, which would be very expensive and not realistic at all. But acquiring green space for an unapproved trail, that's certainly feasible. And it's just a matter of when that land changes hands, if that person is willing to get into a partnership. So I don't think any of these trails are bad visions, but I think we need to have awareness of them. And is that a strategy that we're behind doing? Because if that's not, then those conversations will never happen. But if it is something we are interested in, then we should put it onto our GIS map for planners. So when Dennis gets an application and pops up, he'll see something on his radar to say, oh, this is something that, our regional planning commission and our zoning boards can talk about.
Makes sense. Any other questions, comments?
Would you,
So,
yeah, Jim, if you don't mind, just talking a little bit.
So I've been working with Morpsey on all these different routes. And the question I have is, number one, we have three major metro parks on the western side of Franklin County. There are no connections between them, basically. So our northeastern quadrant is growing extremely fast, right? Population, and if you look at your maps, highly used by cyclists, okay? Now we can get into the definition of cyclists. So I frequent Erie Trail almost every day. So I see who's out there, what type of people, who rides on them, okay? So we can get discussions about mountain bikers, they want to ride on rough terrain and tear up their bikes and do whatever, okay? Gravel bikers are wanting to take their bikes, go over obstacles, that's not a trail, okay? Most people that take long distance riding are going to be on road bikes, or they're going to be on battery bikes, some type like that, which requires a paved trail. And you're not going to take a road bike onto a gravel trail. So, first off, talking to Morpsey, they allowed us to change the map to go from like the Wilson Road area and have a trail into West Jefferson to connect that over to Darby Creek. Okay, but then you've seen the part that Franklin County wants to go along to Darby with there, but it's a gravel trail. So how many people is that going to actually capture to use the trail, utilize the trail? So I give you guys a copy of it, a vision of a trail that goes along Old 42, has a spur to Darby Creek, but also goes up to Prairie Oaks, across the fields into Plain City, and then through Plain City on up to Glacier Ridge to connect all three metro parks together through the largest populous area we're going to have over how many years? Over any other trail, that would be the most effective, in my opinion, because you get people down to the Erie Trail, and it's going to be road bikers that are going to ride long distances. That's not what other people do. And you can see by your other supporting documentation that you've got people that walk, they're not going to walk 1 or 2 miles away from the, a center of population, London or West Jeff or Plain City. So they want to stay close. So, the paved trails and everything, it makes sense doing that. And then connecting all the parks together, now you've got a way to get people interconnected between all of those. So if that were to happen, and then you concentrate on, say, a trail that goes down to Mount Sterling, the reason for that is because the Paint Creek Trail coming from Chillicothe is working its way up toward Mount Sterling. So now that'll connect that together. So basically call that the multi-use freeway compared to the cars of Madison County, and then start branching off from there to do other things with it to the lower use areas. And that would give you your biggest bang for your buck, putting the investment in, is because that's where all the people are going to be. And especially up in Plain City, there's so many cyclists up there, which you have that showing how much they ride up there. I pretty much guarantee you, if you had a way to get to the Erie Trail on a paved path, they would be using it. And then as your car traffic grows up there, I don't know how many of you've seen, but I've seen, like, for example, on 33, there's a 5G pole every quarter mile, and see how many of this pole's been knocked down by people. So it is very dangerous to ride on. Me, I don't ride on the road at all unless I have to get to a trail, because people don't pay attention, and it's just getting worse. So to find a way to build this highway to get people across the county like that, I think is the most feasible thing right now, and, you know, the priority, and then work on how you branch off into the little areas.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I felt one of the things I talked about, like, short term would be connecting West Jefferson to the bike trail. And I don't know, if you've made any progress on that vision.
Well, so Morrissey approved getting from Wilson Road up there. Now, what I would ask you guys, if at least for now, say, we take Wilson Road and make it put signs along it and at least start there with it being the bike route to West Jefferson. And then the other easy part is when the Darby Creek bridges get done, having that multi-use path on the south side of the bridges, and then work with ODOT to build that path to get to Darby Creek. I mean, that's the easiest and, thing I can see to get done right now, is that part. The rest of it's still a challenge, because we're still having discussions with, our justification for running up through the fields of Plain City versus Franklin County that has a lot more money and influence to, as I talked to that individual, and they're, as far as I understand, it's going to be gravel. I'm trying to get that more, define exactly what their trail is going to be. But I have a concern with that because, they don't want it within 1,000 feet of, no paving within 1,000 feet. So what does that mean? You're going to stick, signs along the roads up through there, which is hazardous for people to ride on? Or are you just thinking that people are going to use the gravel paths? I have a big concern with that. Where I've also talked to First Energy, and they're aware of it. I want to take a path over to the London to Angie power lines and run it through with the easement with the power lines up to Plain City. And that goes all the way up to Delaware. So that gets us all the way over to Great Glacier Ridge if we follow the power lines. So it isn't like we're going over like virgin territory, we're just following easement of the power lines. Get up there. And it's all flat land, there's not a lot of bridges, anything, it's just, dozing it and putting down pavement for the most part. It's less maintenance because you don't have tree lines to take care of trees and things of that nature. I've been in meetings with the guy that manages the paint trail, and they have nothing but issues down there because they follow old rail lines that are going over a lot of different depressions and creeks and bridges, and they get washed out and have all kinds of issues, which if we do this way, you don't have all that.
I appreciate that, and that's all very good starting points for discussion. I appreciate the presentation. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, comments? Very good. I think our next Park District meeting is May 21st. If nobody has anything for the good of the order, we'll adjourn this Madison County Park District meeting at June 11th. Oh, yeah, today's May. Sorry, June 14th. Okay. I looked at the important dates at the bottom and just read it. June 14th, correct. Good, thanks everyone, appreciate it.
Guys, get the one, this part. I'm right.
Yeah.
I'm also going to another executive session, only because I saw Amanda's coming up and I was just curious about what she might have to say.
We're a little behind schedule.
Tony, sorry for interrupting you. Thank you for talking to Steve and, coming up with something that I hope we both will.
I'll visit it, make sure.
That's not ready, but we will definitely get that. So I know you will see it again.
I will. It looks better.
Nice computer. Blacked out.
So time to take up our golf cart driving responsibilities. Chamber album. Coming on. When is it? I don't know.
It has no failures.
It doesn't have the days. June 20th. I'm here. If you're here.
This point, we can line up.
Where you go? Maybe Greece.
It sounds like.
Well, for a team, if you can't go, I'm
That's one to be fixed. Those were not. So you can't be there. You have to. It's not the shots. Yes, I'm still. Yeah, there, so talking. That's, you never know, we, for next to deal with a lot of. It's really, not electric.
That's what it's a museum.
So you can go to one place. How are you?
How we doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah.
Guys had an executive session.
We'll wait for Ron to get back, and I assume she's coming right back.
Should be. An update is aerial help.
Yeah. Take a look at it.
No extra charge.
Oh, yeah. Good. We're about to be. Well, I move that we go into executive session to discuss the potential acquisition of real estate.
So moved.
First and a second, any other discussion? None heard, roll call please.
Mr. Shea,
Yes.
Dr. Sneakus,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace.
Yes. That out for me. That's.
Oh, you want me to bring the ortho